Welcome back to another tale from the vault of Would You Dare. One shot, one take. And I am L.A. Kendrick. One shot, one take. We talk about everything demonic, ETs, UFOs, paranormal, monsters, cryptids, serial killers. But this one topic keeps popping up. I'm trying to figure out why and what's the agenda. Well, certain sectors of Congress are trying to bring transparency to the general population because the government is trying to block the truth about UFOs and have been doing a great job since the 1940s at least. So, let's run down a few recent meetings and a few disturbing UFO encounters from credited congressional witnesses. Bring that truth, you guys. I mean, I love it. Power to the people. And you guys know as it goes, the party don't start till you walk in, and now that you're here, let's begin. So we're going to start off, I'm going to try to make this as quick and as painless as possible. Remember, this is those grain of salt moments. These are not my ideas. These are things that I think about from time to time, but fair use, YouTube for educational purposes. And so let me get to why we are here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is the breaking information from Congress, because they want some transparency, of course, and we need transparency on what's going on with this situation. So, you guys, let's dig into it.
Good morning, good afternoon, I should say now. So I'm happy to be here with the folks that have really been talking about this since the beginning of Congress. And this is not something that I thought I would get involved in when I first came to Congress. But quite frankly, the reason why I got involved is as we started asking questions, legitimate questions, the pushback we got is what interests me. Every time we pulled a thread and we stumbled on something, it seemed that we would get stonewalled. And so, NASA has stated that the term UAP does not necessarily imply extraterrestrial origin,
So it's
which means we could be making these things domestic. And so, look, if these are advanced technologies, we're not interested in hurting national security, but we are interested in knowing what these UAPs are. You have the Old Domain Anomaly Resolution Office that was in the NDAA in 2022, and they have said, so the government has said, there's 366 reports of UAPs. A number of them they will not classify. They cannot explain to us. Some they say are weather balloons, some they say is clutter, some they say are other anomalies, but then there are a bunch that they don't explain. And I think you see not just a bipartisan approach here in the House, but you see a bicameral approach with Senator Chuck Schumer and what he's trying to accomplish. And that really just is transparency and disclosure. I think the American people have a simple question, which is if none of this exists, if this is all false, why at every turn are there people trying to stop the transparency and the disclosure?
Good question.
Why are folks who are in charge of committees, whether they are in the House or in the Senate, opposed to this disclosure? And it's that point alone that piques the interest, right? And that's really what we're about. This is not about whether there are aliens or there are not aliens, right? Those are questions that I think remain unanswered, right? It's not whether there is stuff we have found here or not found here. Those questions remain unanswered. The problem is when we ask those questions, right, rather than being provided information that would prove it false, they stonewall the information. And
That's
that
crazy.
is what piques the interest.
Right.
Thank you.
And we are here today because all of the whistleblowers, the hearings, the investigations, the discussions, the work that we have done have culminated in a negotiation that is happening in real time right now over the National Defense Authorization Act, a piece of legislation I care deeply about as a member of the House Armed Services Committee. And in that negotiation, we are fortunate that the amendment Congressman Burchett offered to the House version of the NDAA, provide Burchett amendment, is the strongest position when coupled with the additional authorities and additional agencies that I've just mentioned in order to be able to get to that productive result. Unfortunately, I believe that this information can no longer be siloed with the entities that it frustrated disclosure, that there should be broader briefings to members of Congress, that the Oversight Committee, which many of my colleagues here serve on, should be receiving those briefings, that the Armed Services Committee should be receiving those briefings, and it should not just be the fiefdom of the Intelligence Committee and the intelligence community. And if we achieve that objective, I think we can start to restore some of the trust the public has. But as we work through the finer points of that legislation, we felt it was important today to come forward and express where the log jams exist, where the opportunities lay before us, and we will pursue those with great vigor. I also wanted to specifically thank House Armed Services Chairman Mike Rogers.
I'm skipping ahead.
So work to be done, but we hope that this gives you clarity as to what our goals are, how the scope and depth of the mission ahead.
You know, I came to Congress thinking that this place was dysfunctional, and I had a general idea that the bureaucracy would try to block us. But seeing it from the inside, I can tell you, it's worse than you can imagine. Everything that you suspect about the federal bureaucracy is doing, they're almost certainly doing. And it's nearly impossible to get a straight answer. So you all know my perspective, but at the end of the day, I think the taxpayers deserve to know where their money is being spent. The question we have before us is that, are we in an environment where the republic is being threatened by individuals and by people who are not elected to be able to withhold information from the public?
Man
so,
in Black.
I want to applaud the efforts of this group, the folks standing behind me, especially Mr. Burchett, who, as he said, it's time for
So I'm gonna stop this particular passing of information to us. You guys can check that out through Forbes, okay? And I was trying to make sure that I had the timestamps properly done, but let me get to the other really crucial stuff, because I've been to Puerto Rico, and I've seen the huge satellite dishes down there, SETI, with the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And they always say there's a lot of weird stuff going on down there. And I've actually been to San Juan, Puerto Rico. I went back in 2006, 2007, but it was pretty amazing stuff that I seen down there. But you guys check this part out. This is the stuff that interests me, because as a kid, like I say, this is the stuff that always reached out and grabbed me. But this is from Como. Again, fair use, educational purposes only, okay?
Let's just check some boxes here. What is the scariest suggestion you've ever been given by a source?
Well, David reinforced something I'd been told previously. David Grush told me in the interview that there have been occasions when the phenomenon has hurt humans and indeed killed humans. And it's interesting because if you go into the military archives of the United States, there are many incidents where US military, particularly US pilots, have either disappeared or crashed in strange circumstances. One of the incidents I was talking to somebody about yesterday was in Puerto Rico, where 2 US fighter jets allegedly disappeared engaging what report witnesses said was a gigantic football field-sized craft hovering in the sky. Now, the US at the time obviously denied that this engagement occurred, but the source that I'm speaking to says he knew that 2 pilots disappeared from the flight line and were officially declared missing. Now, there are these incidents all the way through US military history, and indeed in my country. There's a case, a very famous case in 1978, I'm sure people will correct me if I'm wrong. A young pilot called Frederick Valentich was flying over Bass Strait between the island of Tasmania and the mainland of Australia. And he reported to the air traffic control at Moorabbin in Melbourne that he was being hovered over by a gigantic craft.
I remember that one.
And in the course of the conversation, all of a sudden a metallic noise was heard.
Yep.
The audio of that exchange is publicly available, and it's quite frightening.
Yep.
Something he claimed was hovering above his aircraft, and then he and his aircraft disappeared and were never seen again. These are incidents all over the world. I've got a friend who's a former British intelligence officer with the military. Frank's spoken publicly about the fact that during the Cold War, over what was then Western Germany, he became aware of an incident where multiple fighter aircraft were lost attempting to engage. Frank Milburn basically told me that this was an incident that was reported very, very widely inside military intelligence, but not acknowledged publicly. And he knows about it, and so do other people. But these incidents don't get reported publicly, and I don't know why, but the simple reality is, Chris, there is a phenomenon that is manifesting itself all over the world, and it's real, and it's not just in America.
Do you believe that the United States government has physical remains of an extraterrestrial?
When you ask me belief, I'm not religious, so it's not an expression. Belief to me is an expression of religious faith. I work in knowledge. And so as a journalist, I think I'm well beyond prima facie. I'm well beyond what I would call balance of probabilities, the civil burden of proof, more likely than not. That I believe that, yes, I think the evidence suggests very strongly that the US does possess non-human technology. I'm not at the stage yet where I can say, I know, because I don't think I'll really believe it for sure until I kick the tires of the proverbial alien spacecraft. I talk to people regularly who tell me that they work directly with this technology.
Crash retrieval.
With the technology.
Let me skip off of that, okay? This is information, again, these are stories that you guys can check out and see for yourself. Again, just, the researchers out there, just Google some of this information and you'll see. And now I'm going to wrap it up with this drone video that I'd seen yesterday, okay? Again, fair use, you guys. And like I say, this one's going to be a little difficult to see. This is the object. Again, you can pull this up on YouTube. This is from, let me get to it and I'll explain, right? This is what they saw. This is what a drone captured. This object moving at an incredible rate of speed and it banks. So check this out.
It's literally just a split second though.
It's traveling so fast.
And what frame rate is this recording at?
Well, you're shooting at 60 frames a second. So in a matter of 1 second, you can see how fast it travels through. And that was another thing that jumped out at me is, I remember that day it was really windy and you can see in the footage where the drone is, kind of bouncing around. And it just seems to not be bothered by the wind whatsoever.
It's weird because it's almost a translucent, silvery.
Yeah.
It's just insane, isn't it?
You don't think it's possible that this is an optical illusion?
I don't. I've seen lens flares. I've seen birds. I've seen
That's
bugs.
quick.
I've seen other drones. I've seen planes. I've seen everything. And to me, it was so different.
Is there any chance that this was tampered with before you reviewed it?
No, I'm the only one that had access to the cards. I would like to know what.
So I'm gonna pause it there and we'll go forward, okay? To where they actually did the analysis of it. And yeah, they did the analysis of this thing. So let me go ahead.
Oh, wow. There it is. Wow. It's moving at a high rate of speed. I mean, as we track this frame by frame, what's interesting is it maintains a general shape. I would expect to see this a little bit more block-like or larger if someone did manipulate it. Really just to get that cinematic view of the landscape. All right, there we go.
So again, I'm jumping around, trying to get to the end of it, okay? I want you guys to see the analysis of when they did the breakdown to try to dispel any belief that this has been tampered with, okay?
The software assigns vectors, or arrows, to each pixel's movement and direction per frame of video.
Now, what's interesting to me is that this point where we can see the object traveling at a high rate of speed, this is essentially the last frame where we can see it. That object is blurred so far based on how fast it's moving, and these motion vectors are still predicting that it's traveling in this direction. There's a lot of detail in this that would be difficult to fabricate and fool the motion vectors into thinking that it's traveling in this direction.
So if this video was faked, what would you expect to see
these vectors would be a little more sporadic. They wouldn't be so accurate. And I would say the slam dunk is that once the object is visually gone, there's still a bit of a motion trail.
And can we now rule out the fact that this could have been doctored?
Based on the testing that I've performed here, I would be confident in saying that this is an authentic representation of the events as they occurred.
Well, we've now applied multiple tests for this video, and Michael is able to conclude with a high degree of confidence that this hasn't been altered in any way. Which now leaves the question, what is it? What are we looking at?
Can we do anything here now to better understand what is occurring? Based on where it's coming from, we can estimate the speed that this object travels based on the time that this object is showing on screen. We need to get a rough estimate of what this valley is in a minimum length to generate miles per second.
To determine the object's speed, the team maps out its perceived distance traveled.
From here to that edge, that is 2 miles.
And then divides that by the 2-second time span the object is visible.
And we're looking at, covering a distance of around 2 miles. And on screen, it was in the frame for 2 seconds. If an object is traveling 1 mile per second, that object is traveling 3,600 miles an hour. In layman's terms, that thing is cranking. The camera barely caught it.
I'm impressed. This may be one of the most compelling videos of a UFO in existence. This whole time, I've been thinking of the Nimitz incident and what Kevin Day described. It's covering 2 miles in less than 2 seconds. That is faster than any conventional military aircraft that I'm aware of. Could this be a groundbreaking video?
Okay, so there you have it. There that video is, okay? And this is from Quest TV, okay? So, this is, like I said, this is pretty compelling information and compelling footage for me. These are the things that I like to talk about here, okay? And again, we talk about everything here. And so that is the sole purpose and the sole reason that we are here, right? So what do you guys think? Would you dare seek the truth? Even if you think nothing's going on, something is. How long before the truth is released? If it's nothing, then why are all the walls being blocked to try to find the information? Why all the truth being blocked? Okay, so, and some by non-elected personnel. Let's just keep our eyes on this. This is getting good. So you make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe, and get a copy of my latest book, The Foes of God, you guys. I really appreciate you guys showing your love and leaving your comments. And you guys know how we do, because I want to make sure that I wrap this up, and I don't want this too long to where it drags out. But I'm going to keep my eye on this situation and these issues like this, because again, this is fascinating. Despite anything you want to say, again, that's why we talk about this stuff here, so you can come to a place where you can actually speculate and remember what it was like when you were younger to do these things as far as your imagination, right? But there is some creepy stuff always going on out there. And remember, in closing, check your car, check the dark recesses of your home, check your closets, and back to checking your car. If you work in the late hours of the night into the wee hours of the morning, check under your car, check inside your car, check around your car, all right? And then have the gall to look up, have situational awareness, have the gall to look up, watch the sky, because you never know what is waiting to make you a story by beaming you up, Scotty. And this has been LA Kendrick. And until next time, you guys fill in the rest and be safe.